did Trump lose? Why Trump lost, right? Well, so before you really got to understand that is, I'm going to also give you this right here. Leadership personalities, cocktails matter. Leadership personalities. So leaders, I would say Trump is a leader. And I know a lot of you that are listening to me are leaders. I mean, we're all leaders in life, right? We're leading something somewhere. I mean, let's just put on leadership hat. Let's all put on a Wired Differently leadership hat, because, you know, what being part of Wired Differently is, you know, admitting, you know, you don't get stuff right all the time. And, you know, I voted for a guy that didn't win. But I also think there's a reason why roughly 50% of America voted for Mr. Trump, 45, 48%, maybe whatever those numbers come out to. And we're going to talk about the science behind why. Now, listen, the science is an Biden word, right? Science is something that, you know, we all got to follow, and it was the backbone of their campaign. And so let's talk about the science of why Trump lost. Leadership personalities, those cocktails matter. So what is a cocktail? So let's just start off here. Where's my definition of a cocktail? You guys are going to love this one. Definition of a cocktail. I have it in here. Thought I did. Let's see one more time. It must have not have made the cut. Definition of a cocktail. Well, I got it right here. Cocktail. Man, dead air is bad for what we're trying to do, but I need you to understand the definition of a cocktail. Any diverse mixture of elements, especially one with a powerful effect. So why am I talking about personality, cocktails, and why am I talking about Mr. Trump, and why am I talking about him losing? Because here's the thing. Personality, cocktails matter. Now listen to the definition one more time. Any diverse mixture of elements. Personalities are an element, okay? Any diverse mixtures of elements, especially one with a powerful effect. So a cocktail just can't be, you know, equal. It's got to be have one that has a more powerful effect. So if you think about a cocktail and you're mixing a Mai Tai, or you're mixing a screwdriver, or unfortunately we all think of cocktails as drinks, but I'm bringing it to you as a diverse mixture of elements. So this diverse mixture of elements we're going to talk about right now are personality traits. And there is a science behind the why Trump lost, because the reason I voted for Trump was because I was voting towards personality traits, right? And I was voting for policies, but policies and personalities kind of don't mix all the time. And I think the bulk of people, and that's why I made a living in selling so well, as I understood personality traits, right? So I was a very successful salesman in my 20s and 30s and early 40s. I was a national sales award winner 3 years in a row, the whole country, for payroll and HR sales. And so you learn things about personalities and selling. So the thing I want to talk to you about is, before we get into the whole personality trait thing and why Trump lost, I want you to understand that there are 5 winning steps to win people. So I was just going to rip through these 5 things, and then we're going to go through the personalities, okay? And so Mr. Trump, his problem was his personality. I'm just going to tell you right now. Right. So let's just talk about that. His personality was a problem. I have a good friend by the name of Dave Kaufman, right? This guy is amazing. And my banners are not doing well for me right now. So let's talk about the 5 personality traits. 1 is dominance. So when I talk about personalities and leadership and the cocktail of personalities, I want you to understand that there are 4 principal cocktails, 4 principal personalities that form a cocktail of personality traits. And Dave Kaufman taught me this. It's called the DISC, and I'm not pretending to be DISC certified. I don't want anyone coming after me, but I hang around this guy enough, and he's brilliant at what he does, and I've picked up some things, but I'm going to jump into this banner real quick, and I'm going to type in dominance, and I'm going to type in influence, and I'm going to type in steadiness. You follow me? And I'm going to type in consciencness. And I'm going to type in 30%. So we're going to butcher this here. Steadiness. Got spell check going on right now. I know you guys are impressed. And we're going to hit save. And so here's the deal. Dominance. First personality trait Dave taught me was dominance. So out of the 4 main personality traits that this world has, we have the first one, which is called dominance. And let's think about Mr. Trump when I'm talking about these things, okay? Dominance. So 10% of all Americans, all people, let's just say all people, are attracted or have this dominant personality trait to them. And so I got to be honest with you, when Dave called me, he scored me, he said, you got a dominant personality trait, right? And dominance people are attracted to dominance people in many ways. And then there's this other personality trait called influence or influencer. And those influencer people make up 25% of the world. So you got 10% of dominant minded people, and you got 25% of the world that are influential type of people and attracted to influential type of people. And then you've got steadiness, which is the third trait. And that's 35% of the world that's attracted or is more personality minded towards steadiness. And then last but not least, conscientious. So 30% of the world or people are conscientious minded first most and are attracted to conscientious people. And so really what I want to just kind of blast Trump about is that I don't think he ever took a discourse. I mean, if he would have took Dave Kaufman's discourse, he would have actually understood that he is all D. I mean, he's all D. I mean, you can only get 10% of the people if you're all D. So I think Trump collected 10% of the world voting for him because he was just a D. Now, there's some people out there attracted to influential people, and he's influential, right? So let's just pretend for a moment that Mr. Trump collected 25% of all the people in the world that were 25% of the people in the world were influential. That puts him at 35%. Steadiness is 35% of people in this world want steadiness. Kaufman taught me this, right? Disc taught me this. So 35% of the world's people are looking for conscientiousness, right? We got 35% for steadiness, and we got 30% for conscientiousness. So Trump probably got all 10% of dominance, and he probably got all 25% of influencers. But when it comes to steadiness, I think he falls off the cliff. He wasn't steady. And he probably picked up some of those people that were thinking he was steady because he did something steady. But here's the big killer. Here's the dealio. My brother, my man, Mr. Trump, when we start talking about conscientiousness, I mean, he lost every person in that category. He just didn't think past himself. He didn't think past his mind of brand and business. Now, when he first ran 4 years ago, he was fresh, he was new, he was doing things different. I think he was more conscientious. He was more talking about China, more talking about grabbing everybody's votes, more talking about doing all these things differently. He was more, I would give him more wow differently the first term, but this time around, he didn't take any playbook out of the DISC manual, and he didn't take any playbook out of any type of John Maxwell leadership policies. I mean, John Maxwell will tell you got to do what I tell people in many times, leadership. You got to be aware of all these things, and you have to lead. But you have to be aware of everybody. The plan needed to change in the second half. They caught on to you in the first half. The second half of the Super Bowl, baby, you got to change up the defense. You got to change up the offense. You got to change things up. And I'm not judging Man, I want his policies, but his personality, man, it just sucked. And he wasn't aware of the disc. He wasn't aware. I mean, simpler people out there like Chris Rollins and Del Toro McNeil, and there's all kinds of Dave Kaufman. These guys are masters at this. I mean, if he just would have sat down and tried to think about what the world is looking for from a practicality perspective, his policies probably would have played out. But we couldn't get past America, couldn't get past his personality. So 5 winning steps. 5 winning steps in sales. 5, you probably never heard these 5 winning steps. I'm just going to give you, there's more than 5 out there, but I'm just going to tell you what Mr. Trump should have done, what we should do when we're out there selling and trying to win people and trying to work through these things. First of all, I would get a class with Dave Kaufman or Chris Rollins or somebody out there in DISC. I would figure out how to do DISC. Dave Kaufman's right there in Sarasota, one of my dearest, oldest friends. So DISC, I mean, figure out these personality traits: dominance, influence, steadiness, consciousness, right? These things, this cocktail, those personalities have to be in every leader. Every leader just can't be dominant. Every leader can't just be influential. Every leader just can't be steady. And every leader just can't be conscientious. He's got to create this cocktail. I know he's accomplished a lot. He's made a lot more money than me. And, you know, I'm a little pissed at him, to be honest with you. I mean, he had it. He had the policies, he had the economics, but he couldn't get past his own personality. And I know this is going to come back and I'm going to get some hate mail. You know, here's the problem with this is that I'm a little frustrated because, I mean, literally I put out a generous Trump Facebook post the other day, and a wonderful fan of mine, I can't really remember her name, and if I could, I wouldn't say it, but she shot back right away. She goes, I just don't understand why smart people vote for him. And that's what really got me started on this little rant, is just because I just thanked her for calling me smart, but now I understand why smart people have voted for him. A lot of smart people are D-minded people. A lot of smart people are influencers. A lot of smart people are steady. A lot of smart people are conscientious, but the personality traits don't make you smart. They just make you what you are, right? So the personality trait was part of the voting process that he wasn't aware of, didn't want to be aware of, never had to be aware of. He was just, like Raj told me the other day, Trump's just a hammer and everybody's a nail. Well, it's what you get. You know, that's what you get. And yeah, I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy that he ended up being that way. And I'm not happy that he showed us that in that first debate. I'm not happy that he couldn't get it under control. He couldn't get his Twitter under control because America needs his policies more than we need him. Bottom line is that, and he blew it. Prideful man. So here's what I wanted to take. I'm getting it out. You know, I'm getting it out. People that didn't vote for him, we're going to be fine. America's fine. America's bigger than one president. Always has been, always will be. So we got to take it, get over it. And, you know, Mr. Trump, just, you know, go out gracefully. Go out gracefully. So here's what I want to give you real quickly. I want to give you 5 winning steps to win people. So these are kind of general things that I just kind of always thought about when I was in sales, or when I'm presenting myself, or when I'm going through processes of winning a business meeting, or winning a relationship, or winning a sales, or winning a contract, or whatever it may be. I just kind of always kind of go through these 5 things. And I know it's going to seem a little silly to some of you, but I just want you to know, when you make an entrance, be noticed appreciatively. So when you walk into a room, I mean, I know some of you know me and you're like, oh, okay, now we're going to hear about, so he's purposeful about how he looks, or the cologne he may have on, or the shoes he's wearing, or the brand he's representing. Yeah, I'm purposeful about when I enter a room. I'm purposeful about, actually, a lot of times when I'm on time, I want to make sure that my presence is known in an appreciative way for them. They're appreciating the fact that I'm appreciating them. So I want to make sure that I just don't blend away in the room. I want to be noticed because I want to be impactful. I want to have that win that right at some point to be listened to, not to be pushed away or smudged or people leave because the first impression of me was not a winning, appreciative impression, right? So number one, when you make an entrance, be noticed appreciatively. That means appreciatively by them, which means you need to be appreciative of them for them to appreciate you. 2, spend as much time on them as you have on yourself, meaning I spend a lot of time on myself. I'm going to make fun of myself right now, but when I moisturize my face, I have 3 different complexions, right? So I'm a little drier here, I'm a little moist here, and I'm really dry here. And so I take a lot of time on maybe moisturizing my beard one way differently than the top of my forehead, because if I don't, I won't do well in the meeting. I won't do well in the afternoon. I'll be subconscious about that. Then it's just like a funny thing about me. But I want you to make sure if you're spending a lot of time on yourself, you need to be spending that much time on your audience. You need to be spending that much time on who you're trying to win, who you're trying to sell, who you're trying to, convince, right? We want to motivate other people. So we want to make sure we know what they're about. We want to know their personality types, right? What cocktail of personality are they? Are they a dominant? Are they a steady? Are they an influencer? Are they conscientious? We need all of them. As a leader, we need to make that cocktail about us as well. And 3, empathy, empathy, empathy. So if we go back to 1, Mr. Trump, let's just pick on him. When he walks into a room, he does a pretty good job at that, but we know that he spends more time on himself than he's spent on them. Unfortunately, when you make an entrance, be noticed appreciatively. So I can give him a kind of a win on that because he does make a Trump entrance because he's the president and he does command notice. But here's the thing. Spend as much time on them as you have yourself. I don't believe a guy like Mr. Trump has spent a lot of time on the people he's getting ready to talk to. He had one message, one talk track, and that was it. And it was generally about himself. We need to talk about other people. We need to include other people. We need to spend as much time on them as we have ourselves. And I'm saying we need to spend time on ourselves. So that's a good rule to have. And number 3, empathy, empathy, empathy. Let's pick on Trump here. I think he loses here again. I think he loses in empathy. I don't think he showed a lot of empathy. I think he just showed a lot of toughness and ruggedness. I think, and I was attracted to that, but you've got 70, 90% of the world that isn't only attracted to that, and you're losing people on personality traits. And number 4, have knowledge and command of the solution. Have knowledge and command of the solution. Now, I felt like Mr. Trump had a pretty good job with knowledge and command of the solution, but he lost us in COVID schmovid. He had good facts, but he couldn't stay with it. He couldn't delegate and relegate command of the solution on a regular basis. Now, he could on China or he could on the wall, but when it came down to the COVID schmovid, he just couldn't garner enough regular command of the solution needed. Now, it was a mystery, don't get me wrong, but I don't feel like he did a good enough job commanding that solution on the 5 points of winning people when it comes to the way I look at things. And last but not least, when you exit, you've already entered the room, you've made the entrance appreciatively, and you've spent as much time on them as yourself, and you've showed empathy. Now we have to be at a command of the solution. Now we have to be showing gratitude. So when you're leaving the meeting, when you're leaving the room, don't pound your chest. Show gratitude. And this is, I don't know. I voted on him. I voted for him. I think his policies are the best thing America's had in a long, long time. But I just didn't see gratitude. When he left the room, I didn't see gratitude. So here's the thing. The title of this message is Why Trump Lost, and that's why you're watching. All right. And so I'm just going to kind of go through this real quick again for some of you people that are picking up here. And I'm going to tell you that personality cocktails matter. Leadership personality cocktails matter. And we knew that a cocktail was a blend of ingredients, one with one powerful, at least one with a more powerful mix. And so these personality cocktails that we talked about are the 4 disc personality cocktails that I learned from my good friend Dave Kaufman many, many years ago. You got a dominant personality trait. Matter of fact, I had Dave Kaufman come speak to my company probably 3 years ago, and we divided our entire company up, and we had them pick which character they were, which influence personality they were, and I'll be damn it, when we broke up into 4 categories, 10% were in dominance, 25% were influence, and 35% were in steadiness, and 30% were in conscience, within personality bubbles of 2%, right? It's true. And so if Trump would have listened to the disc mentality, and I'm sure Dave's going to talk more about this because he won't be able to resist because he knows it's his life, Trump could have only demanded 10% of the popular vote and maybe another 25% of the popular vote because they were influencers and dominance. I mean, he had 35% of America out of the gate on personality tests, but he starts to lose people in steadiness and conscientiousness. I mean, literally 65% of America, including myself, have a hard time voting him in on steadiness and conscientiousness. I just put more weight on dominance and influence, right? Now, I'm just telling you a little bit about me, and that's maybe you'll understand me a little more. But by me telling this, you understand I'm aware of steadiness. I'm aware of the C's out there. D is for dominance. I is for influencers. S is for steadiness and steady, and C is for conscientious. I'm low on I'm a low C, right? I'm a low C. I'm a high D. I'm kind of a high I. I'm a medium to low S, and I need to bring my C up. But I'm not naturally a C, right? But Mr. Trump doesn't even know how to spell disc, unfortunately. Doesn't mean I don't like him. Just means that after looking at the science, I understand why Trump lost. And then I went through to give you 5 steps that I worked on in my entire life that's made me successful in sales. It's made me successful, I think, in life and in relationships. Now, I don't win them all. But I want you to understand, here you go. 1, when you make an entrance into the meeting or a room or any type of function, I want you to be noticed appreciatively. 2, I want you to spend as much time on your audience or your buyers or the room or the people you're there to influence or talk to or be a part of as you have yourself. Meaning that if you've spent 100 hours on the product and the process and the brand, then you got to take that 100%, that 10 hours, you got to spend 10 hours on the audience. I mean, ideally, I want you to understand exactly who's going to be there. I want you to understand who the D is, who the I is, and the S is, and the C is. I mean, it just only makes sense. Why walk out there, unfortunately, like I think Mr. Trump, and just be focused on one monolithic rail and what he's thinking? And many times he did, because there's other half of America that he just didn't want to think about how his personality was affecting them. And 3, I want you to talk about empathy. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how important you are. I don't care how successful you are. I don't care if you're the president of the United States. If you don't have empathy for your neighbor on a regular basis, you're never going to retain power. You're never going to retain the gifts that God gave you. You're never going to maintain relationships. I mean, think about him. 3, 4 wives. You have to have empathy to keep a wife. You have to have empathy to keep relationships. You have to be steady to keep those relationships. And you have to be conscientious. Now, I'm not saying that people that have been through divorces are all bad. I'm just saying when we look at the president of the United States, and there was more than 3 there, and that personality trait created some challenges for him because it wasn't just the revolving situation back then. It was just more of his personality trait. And I'm not talking about all people who've been through multiple divorces are that way, because you're not, but he has several personality pieces to him that have played into that voting prospect and play into why he lost. Just what I'm saying. And the fourth piece of the 5 winning steps is have knowledge and command of the solution. So what's the solution? The big solution is economics. He did good at that. What's the big solution? The wall. He did a good job with that. Immigration did a good job. But here's what happened. It comes down to COVID, and he doesn't have a command of it. When you're trying to win people and influence people, you have to have a command of the solution. You're a problem solver. Leaders are problem solvers. And if you're not there to solve a problem, you're not there to lead. Last but not least, when you exit a room, when you exit the meeting, when you exit the speech, right? Del Toro taught me lots of good stuff, man. Be grateful. They may be clapping for you, but you need to be clapping for them because you're there for them. And they're only clapping for you if they're appreciative of what you've had to say or what you're doing or the problem that you're solving. These 4 personality traits are needed, and these 5 winning steps are crucial. And in close, I just want to give you this. I want you to be able to change who you are to become who you want to be. I want you to be able to change who you are to be able to become who you want to be. And I think that was another problem that Mr. Trump had, that he wasn't willing to change who he was, certainly in the second term. The field moved, the goalposts moved. He fought his ass off. There's no question. No media, no following, no. Just literally had one hand behind his back the whole time. Don't get me wrong. It's one of the toughest guys ever, right? And that's why I voted for him, because I'm a D and I follow that personality trait. I'm inspired by a man who keeps getting hit in the mouth and keeps getting up and coming back stronger, right? He was resilient. He was unwavering. He was unflappable. I mean, he beat COVID in 3 days and went back out and did it all over again. I mean, those are the things that D is attracted to. But we forget, Mr. Trump, you've got I's and S's and C's out there, right? And you have to win more than 50%. And you're not going to do it with just a D personality. And I think that's the lesson that we need to learn. And I'm eager to hear what you all have to say about this. I know. I'm not going to make everybody happy with this message. So I know we've went on. It's been 30 minutes. And as you know, I don't look at comments as I'm broadcasting the show. We've had great turnout, and I'm eager to look at what people have to say. So I'm just going to say, hey, listen, I want you to be able to change who you are. I want you to be able to change who you are to be able to become who you want to be, because that's a wired differently trait. And I think Mr. Trump fell short of that. He wanted to be the president of the United States again, and he wasn't willing to change who he was to do it. Now, I mean, it doesn't mean to compromise your beliefs. It just means that you need to look out at the field. If they're in a cover 2, I'm just telling you, maybe you want to throw a screen pass, right? If they're in a nickel, they're in a prevent. Maybe we could do a draw or something like that. But here's the deal: be aware of other people. Be aware of these personality traits that are out there: dominance, influencer, conscientious, and steadiness. DISC. I'll tell you the other way. So I'm going to sign off here. I want you to be able to be willing to change who you are to become who you want to be. And you're going to be able to do that if you're aware of other people in these personality traits. And last but not least, I want you to make an entrance appreciatively. I want you to spend as much time on the other person or the crowd as you've spent on yourself and your process. I want you to have empathy for other people. Practice by giving the homeless guy or the homeless woman some money. Don't just drive by. Get up on it. Start pushing yourself. Empathy. Have the knowledge and command of the solution. I don't know what your job is or what you're going to do, but you better, damn it, have command of the solution. You can't walk in there and expect all of the other people around you to have the answers. If you're the leader, you are the point person, and you have to know as much about the solution as anybody. And last but not least, I want you to be grateful when you leave the room. Metaphorically, when you leave the room, I want you to be grateful, and I want you to let people know it, because you have to be grateful or you'll lose everything you've ever made in your life. So that's where I'm at. I know that's pretty heavy, and that's why Trump lost, and that's why Wired Differently people are willing to look at things this way. They're willing to be open and talk about it. Wired Differently people are willing to change who they are to become who they want to be. It's been a great show, and I appreciate it.